Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Ali Ingersoll. 5 teens who escaped from the Holly Hill Hospital have been located. The search to find them lasted days, leaving parents distraught and wondering how this could happen. WRAL's Eastern North Carolina reporter Heidi Kirk has been following the story. Thanks so much for joining us today, Heidi.
Absolutely, Ali. Happy to be here.
So what do we know right now about how the teens escaped? How exactly did this happen?
First of all, we got an anonymous tip telling us that several teenagers had escaped from the Holly Hill Hospital in Raleigh. I eventually connected with a parent who confirmed that story and said that her 16-year-old son was one of those people. She said that she got a call on Tuesday night that her son and 4 others escaped. We eventually, confirmed that with police. They said that they've been on top of this story and did confirm that it was 5 juvenile men that escaped from the hospital.
And before we get too deep into this conversation, for some background now, what is Holly Hill Hospital?
I'm actually sitting out here as we're speaking. It's a place that provides comprehensive inpatient and outpatient psychiatric programs to pretty much Raleigh and all of the surrounding area. Now they treat patients of all ages. In front of where I'm sitting right now, you can see they both have an area for adults and children. So they do a little bit of all types of care here.
Okay, so thank you for that background. I think that's really helpful for this story to kind of know what exactly is going on here. So have there been any issues reported there in the past? What do some of the records that we looked at show about the facility and its staffing?
Well, Ali, that is one of the first things that we wanted to look into here. We actually obtained some records with North Carolina Health News that show in June 2021, health regulators from the State Department of Health and Human Services actually put this very hospital under immediate jeopardy. They found several deficiencies, including conditions that allowed 2 patients to escape from the facility by jumping over a fence. This is exactly what we're dealing with right now. So this is several years later. We also have heard from other parents who've had children in the facilities in the past. They say that they aren't cleanly and that security doesn't seem to be quite right. In fact, I spoke with an employee who wished to remain anonymous, but they told us that they also have some of those concerns about security and understaffing. I will note there that many people have said that there's potential concerns about understaffing. However, whenever we spoke via a statement and over email with the facility themselves, they said that they are fully staffed.
And you kind of described what you're looking at right now. What about the area around this? Where are we talking about here? What is this looking like?
Well, I'm looking here to my left and my right. It's pretty much what any general hospital-like facility looks like, many big kind of stone-like buildings. And then if you look around, it's a pretty wooded area. So, as I'm thinking about where these teenagers or kids could have gone, looking around, it's very dense forest over here. There's a construction zone across the street. It looks like they're putting up some type of housing right nearby, but otherwise it looks like any general medical facility.
And I think that's a great jumping off point for my next question. I guess, what is this search radius like? Where are officials looking? Do they have any idea really about where these kids might be?
Well, what we've heard from Raleigh police is that when this happened on Tuesday night around 8 p.m., with the assistance of the Western Wake EMS drone, they searched this area for those juveniles, but they didn't locate them. They were eventually entered into the NCIC, or that's the National Crime Information Center, is missing. But at this time, as far as we know, they've suspended that search.
Okay, so what exactly is going on then?
We're not totally sure. We don't think that there's any search by police. We've been pressing them for answers, but we haven't heard much. Many of these parents are in the area, even though they're actually from all across the state. I spoke with one mom from Charlotte who actually drove down here to North Carolina, Raleigh, of course, to search the area herself. And she says she really hasn't heard much from police about what they're doing. And there's a lot of concerns raised there, and we're pressing them for answers.
Yeah, I'm sure that's incredibly frustrating for those parents and for you as well. We're going to talk more about the relationship that you have formed with these families after this break. Welcome back. So, Heidi, tell us what we know about these kids. How old are they? Their age ranges, that kind of stuff. Any kind of information we have about them in general, especially since we probably, as the public, should be keeping an eye out.
Absolutely, Ellie. And, I spoke in depth with a couple of different families at this point about the kids. We have kind of a range in ages here. One specific family that I got to know very well, they have a 16-year-old son. They say that he's had a history of mental health issues, has attempted suicide in the past, but overall is a really sweet kid and a really nice guy, doing well in school, all of the things that you would expect. And they said they're just absolutely worried sick about him, and just are putting out pleas in every which way to hopefully bring him home.
You have mentioned a couple of these families, a couple of these employees who you've talked to. How's everyone feeling right now about all of this? And I guess also, how have you formed these relationships with these people? I think that hearing their side of this is so critically important for a story like this.
Well, Ali, it's really heavy. I mean, any time that you're talking to a parent who's missing a kid, you can really just feel it in the air around me. I'm standing there with my camera, setting up a tripod, and during that time, I'm making just some general small talk to try to get to know these families and understand what they're going through, understand who their kids are and what they're like. And some of those conversations, really evoke emotions. One family that I spoke with, they're tearing up. They're fearful that they're never going to see their son again. And I think that's a real fear for these families whose children may have attempted suicide or have some really intense mental health struggles. We have these conversations. Often, you think of reporters as kind of stoic or formal, but these families, after we wrap up these really emotional and interviews that really hit home. I normally offer them a hug. And so that's what happened yesterday. I hugged this mother who is worried that her kid's never going to come home. It's a very emotional experience. And I think at the end of the day, we have a lot of details that we're working through here. We're trying to get answers from both the facility and the police. But at the root of this story, it's parents that are missing their kids and just desperately hope that they can find them and eventually get them the care that they need.
Yeah, and like we said, police are not really giving them a lot of answers. They're not giving you a lot of answers. So they're out there. Are there search parties around Raleigh right now?
We haven't heard about any specific search parties per se. However, we have connected several of the families who are missing kids. They're talking via text. I'm trying to figure out where exactly they should be looking, what ground they're covering. One mother told us that she's really worried that their kids could have made it outside of Raleigh, even into Durham or Cary or even beyond because of the public transportation in this area. But other than that, we don't know of any organized search parties at this time. But of course, that's one of those questions that we're looking for, especially when kids are missing. That's the forefront of my mind. Who's looking for them? Are there organized groups? But at this time, we haven't heard of anything specific.
So many concerns. Now, did any of these families share any personal stories? I know that you talked about the one child doing well in school and stuff like that. So what else are we getting to know and learn about some of these kids' personalities? What are they like?
Absolutely. When you envision a 16-year-old, I'm sure you can look back and remember being 16. For many people, it's the time when they're getting their driver's license and really starting to excel in school or even thinking about college. And, many of those stories really shine through, remembering these children and just hoping that they're going to make their way home, be able to attend another day of high school. One mother just described her son as being one of the brightest kids in his class, someone that many people look up to, a real leader, but also someone that struggled with very real mental health issues. And not only do they want to bring him home so that he can, go back to high school and start kind of his life and back over after being in this facility and getting some help that he needs, but also, making sure that he can get the help that he needs and maybe enter another facility and really work on those mental health challenges, because we all know how real those can be.
There's a lot going on with this story, and a lot of the latest developments are available on our website, WRAL.com. Thanks, Heidi, for staying on top of this story, for trying to get answers, not only for us, but for those families as well. And thank you for listening and joining the WRAL Daily Download. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more podcasts from WRAL.com. Search podcast from news to true crime. There are plenty of shows to keep you informed and entertained. Thanks for listening.